Okay, so the first one, what do you have to do? Turn that into 6, okay?
That's 12.
This is going to become what?
15.
15 inches. And then? 15 minus 9 is 6 inches. 6 minus 1 is 1 foot. Not so bad? Okay, the next one I added a little bit of difficulty to it. 4 feet 8.5 inches times 7. Our first thing we have to do is take the 8.5 times 7. Can somebody walk me through how I'm going to do that? Well, you could do 8.5, but to keep it as fractions, we would have to 8 times 2 is 16 plus 1 is 17 halves. This is going to become 7 over 1. 17 times 7 is 119. 2 times 1 is 2. So now it's 119 divided by 2. 2 goes into 11 5 times. That'd be 10. Bring down, with 1 left over, bring down the 9. That's 9 with 1 left over, 59.5. So we have 59.5 inches. If you'd have done 8.5, you'd have got 59.5. Now the problem with that, of course, is that it is feet and inches. We can break it down. How many feet can we get out of there?
Divided by 12.
Divide by 12, and which would give us
4. Or you say 4, the more it's not going to be 4.
well, 4 feet. 4 times 12 is
48.
48. So how much is left?
11.5.
11.5 inches. So we're going to keep the 11.5. We're going to carry the 4 feet. 7 times 4 feet is
28.
plus 2? 32 feet. How many had 32 feet, 11.5 inches? Good deal. Anybody not know where that comes from? Okay, well then this one. 7 goes into 25 how many times? 3, so that'd be 3 feet. 3 times 7 is 21 feet. What's left over? 4 feet. 4 feet before we can bring down the 8 inches, what do we have to do? 4 feet is 48 inches. We bring down the 8 inches to get 56. 7 goes into 56 how many times? 8 times. So that's 3 feet, 8 inches. Now for division, what if it didn't come out nice and neat like that? What if it was something like this? Hey guys, you gotta stick with me here, okay? So 8 goes into 13 feet how many times? 1. That's 1 feet. 1 foot. 1 foot times 8. 8 feet. What's left over? 5. Then what? So that's 60 inches. 6 plus 60 is 66 inches. Divide by 8. Well, 66 divided by 8 doesn't work out evenly, does it? 8 1/4. 8.25. So it's okay to have fractions there once we get down to the inches, because there are no smaller units to convert it down into. So we can't have a remainder when we're dealing with measurements. Now, we ended up yesterday, we were talking about our measurement conversions a little bit, and we were talking about operations with measurements as we just saw here. Some conversions actually that we should run into. Let's say I give you a number like 7.31 feet. And I want that converted into feet and inches to the nearest 1/8 inch. I have the 7 feet. I'm going to keep that as 7 feet. The 0.31 that I have to convert into inches. How do I convert that into inches? Well, not divide by 12. Yeah, 1 foot's 12 inches. When we set up our proportion, we set up our conversion factor here, the feet cancel out. It's 0.31 times 12, or 3.72, correct? Inches. Now we only want the 3 off of that to give us 3 whole inches. We're going to take now the 0.72 over 1 times 8 over 8. Where did the 8 come from? 8ths. This is going to be 8 on bottom. 0.72 times 8 is 5.76, I believe. So it's telling it, yep, if we were 1/16 of an inch, we multiply by 16. So that tells us it's between 5/8 and 6/8, because 5.76 is between 5 and 6. Which is it closer to, 5/8 or 6/8? It's closer to the 6/8. So 6/8, of course, is 3/4 of an inch. So 7 feet 3 3/4 inches. Quickly in your notes, find the perimeter of this rectangle. Remember, perimeter is adding up all 4 sides. So what did we find here, guys? How many of you got 27 feet 3 inches?
Oh, gosh.
You did?
It is.
Is that what you got?
No.
Well, that's good, because I just made that up. How would we do this? I was just making sure you didn't blindly raise your hand and say, yeah, I got it.
I separated the feet 3 inches.
Okay. That could work if you're very careful. I mean, technically, we're just adding up all 4 of the measurements, right? So 8, 2 is 10, another 8 and 2 makes 20 inches, which of course is 1 foot and 8 inches. So keep the 8 inches, carry the 1 foot. 1 and 9, 10 plus 5, 15 plus 9, 24 plus 5 is 29 feet, 8 inches. Something a bit more challenging for you. One thing we discussed briefly last class was if we knew the diameter of the circle, finding the circumference. So if I have a diameter of 8 inches, how do I find the circumference? Pi times the diameter. So if I'm just using 3.14 for pi times 8 inches, that is going to give me 25.12 inches. Correct? So what would happen if instead of having 8 inches, if I had 3 feet 4 inches? How do I find the circumference?
Oh, wait, you just converted it to inches.
You'd have to convert it all into inches, yes. 3 feet is 36 inches, plus the 4 inches is 40 inches. Very good. Now, I'm going to stop there. Anybody not sure where the 40 comes from? 3 times 12 is 36, plus the 4 is 40 inches. So we know that's 40 inches. So to find our circumference, it's going to be pi 3.14 times 40, which is going to give us 125.6 inches. Very good. Now, of course, we don't want to leave it like that. We don't like having big inches like that. We want to change this now to be feet and inches. We're going to divide by 12. So 12 goes into 12 once with nothing left over. Bring down the 5. Does 12 go into 5? No, so I got to put a 0 there. Now I'm going to bring down the 0.6. I'm not going to, like I said, when we do measurements, we don't want remainders. We don't want decimal feet. We want it to be feet and inches. So this is 10 feet. We have 5.6 left over. That'd be 5.6 inches. Now, technically, we can't measure 5.6 inches. So let's say I want that to the nearest eighth. So it's 10 feet. I'm taking my 5 inches, and then I'm going to take my 0.6 and convert them. 0.6 over 1 times what? 8 over 8. So it's going to give me 4.8 over 8, which is closest to which one? 4/8 or 5/8? 5/8. So 10 feet, 5 and 5/8 inches. So now to challenge you a little bit, I want you to look at a problem like this. Pretend that's a half circle. This half circle has a diameter of 4 feet 10 inches. I want you to find the distance around that half circle. Okay, so what would be the first thing we would want to do here? Well, first thing we would want to do is we want to convert this all into inches, right? So 4 times 12 is 48, plus 10 is 58 inches of diameter. Now what are we going to do with that? So we're going to find the circumference of the circle, 3.14 times 58, which is 91.06. Something doesn't seem right there. 182.12 inches. Now that has, since it's only half a circle, we're going to divide that by 2 to get 91.06. So that looks right. Is that our answer? Are we all done? That goes from here to here. We still need that. Add our 58-inch diameter back in. So 149.06. Now I didn't say it here, but what if I had asked for this to be to the nearest 16th of an inch? Did I say 8? Okay, we'll go 8. If you guys did it to the 8th, we'll go 1/8 inch. Nearest 1/8 inch. So let's come down here. First thing I'm going to have to do is I'm going to take my 149 and I'm going to convert this into feet. So 12 goes into 14 once with 2 left over. Bring down the 9. 12 goes into 29 twice. That's 24 with 5 left over. Now I'm at the decimal point, so I'm going to leave it there. That is 12 feet. I have 5. Bring down the 0.06, 5.06 inches. Put the 5 inches in, and I'm going to take that 0.06 over 1 times 8 over 8 gives me 0.48 over 8. Is that at least a half an inch? 0.48 or half an eighth. Sorry. No, it's less than 0.5, so that rounds down to 0.8. So to the nearest eighth of an inch, that'd be 12 foot and 5 inches. If we were going, that's one of the reasons why I asked for the 16th when I said this here, because the 16th would have been at least 1/16. But no problem.
I knew you would say 1/16 and it's going to be 1/16 with 8.
Yep. Any questions on what we've done there so far? Okay, so back to the new material for today. So we left off last time talking about the metric system a little bit and conversions with the metric system. And it basically went off of this little chart. Meters, decimeters, centimeters, and millimeters. Of course, we got micrometers and nanometers down there if we wanted to keep going. Decameters, hectometers, and kilometers. And if we wanted to keep going, we'd have megameters and gigameters and terameters and all that stuff. But we tend to stick in the construction field, especially, we tend to stick in these main sets here. And realistically, we use the meters, the kilometers, the millimeters, and centimeters. So let's take a look at our conversions we talked about. If I have 27.8 millimeters, how many centimeters is that going to be? Perfect. I go from millimeters to centimeters, there's one spot to the left. My decimal has to move one spot to the left, 2.78. If I have 5,300 millimeters, how many meters do I have? 1, 2, 3 spots to the left. 1, 2, 3. 5.3 meters. If I have 0.026 kilometers, how many meters do I have? Well, kilometers to meters, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. That is 26 meters. Good. You guys okay with those conversions? Anybody questioning how they do them? The biggest thing is to either memorize this chart or write it down somewhere at the back cover of your notebook or something where you can get to it really quickly so you can use it. What if I were converting from standard to metric or metric to standard? Well, you guys brought this up yesterday a little bit about how construction is going to get messed up. How about a 16-inch stud spacing? How many centimeters is that going to be? Well, 16 over 1. And you're right, it's 2.54 centimeters in 1 inch. So we set it up like that. The inches will cross cancel. So it is 16 times 2.54, which is, what is it? 40.64 inches. Is that right?
Yeah, let me find a 0.64 of an inch.
0.64 of an inch. Or centimeters, sorry, not inches, that's centimeters. So either way, basically your
Either way, this is
your 16-inch stud spacing is going to end up being a 40-centimeter stud spacing. You asked about your 4x8 sheets. Well, 48-inch, what's that going to convert into? So 2.54 basically times 48. 121.92 centimeters. So it's going to be basically 120 centimeters. You're 8 foot, 96 inches. That's going to be 243.84 centimeters. So it's going to, well, what they're going to do, do you think they're going to really leave it 121.92? No, it's going to be 120 by 240. This is going to be a 40 centimeter stud spacing. This is going to be 120 centimeter by 240 centimeter. And you notice it will work out.
I'll be losing profit then.
Well, it'll be a smaller sheet. Yeah, hopefully the price gets adjusted. Most likely it won't. But you know, it'll work out your stud spacing. 40 centimeters does go into both 120 and 240. So your spacing will work out. Instead of an 8-foot ceiling, you're going to have a 240 centimeter ceiling.
That's too short.
It's going to be, yeah, it's going to be a little bit more than an inch, about an inch and a half shorter.
I don't like this.
At some point, the adjustment will be made. And I'm not saying it will even be within your lifetime. I don't know when it's going to happen, but the switch will happen. Financially, it's not feasible to keep using both systems. I know like major companies like IBM have already changed over. International companies, IBM made the change. It's been 7 or 8 years ago now. And they said in their first year they projected that they were going to save between $10 and $12 million just by doing everything metric. Otherwise, they had to spend the money to design everything to design because part of their stuff is built overseas. They had to design everything in both metric and standard and do the conversions. And then they had to have the tools, both standard and metric tools. And then some of the parts would come, and when you do the conversion from standard to metric, sometimes there's a little round-off error. So the parts they would get from overseas didn't always fit exactly right. Yeah. Just do everything overseas and send it all back?
You just do it all here, and everyone else buys from us.
Yeah.
And then we're out of this.
Well, and when you rule the world, you can require that to happen.
I will. I'm going to be president.
I mean, and they actually, I don't remember what the exact number was, but at the end of that first year, they announced that they actually saved more than they had projected by doing everything in metric. So I mean, you're looking at, $12 million. What's that?
Go back up to that chart, right?
Sure. Need to get that in your notes? Okay. I'll pause for you to write. Okay, so you got the chart down. We've talked about our operations with measurements, with our standard measurements. With metric measurements, it's a little simpler. Because in standard measurements, we had to deal with like 3 feet, 9 inches. Those dual units. In metric, we never have to deal with that. In metric units, we would never have something like 2 meters, 27 centimeters. We don't combine multiple units together in that way. What we would do is either this would be listed as 2.27 meters or 227 centimeters. Separated out. We would never put them together. So in the metric system, we don't have to worry about carrying and converting. All we have to worry about is making sure that before we start, the 2 units are the same. If we have 5.3 meters plus 280 centimeters. Well, first thing we need to decide is whether we want our answer to be in meters or centimeters. And it usually depends on the situation, what we're doing. So let's say in this situation we want our answer in meters. So the 5.3 meters will not change. 280 centimeters becomes 2.8 centimeters. Centimeters to meters is 2 spots. So that's going to add up to be 8.1 meters. What's that? Do I need the 0 there? Well, no. Unless it's indicated as significant, I don't have to keep it there. What's that? Oops, sorry. There. Good catch. Yeah, I shouldn't have put the C on there. So we might have 7.4 meters minus 90 centimeters. And this time, let's say we want our answer in centimeters. So what are we going to do? Okay, to make. So this will be 740 centimeters minus 90 centimeters, which is going to make 650? Sure. Now, we were talking with our standard measurement when we did multiplication. We multiplied a measurement by a scalar. We did something like 7 foot 3 inches times 8. The reason we did that is because with our dual units, multiplying 2 measurements is very, very messy. If I had 4 feet 6 inches times 5 feet 3 inches, it's very, very messy to do with it in the dual units. So normally in standard measurement, if we were going to multiply 2 measurements, I would either convert this all into feet. This is going to become 4.5 feet. Where did the 0.5 come from? 6 divided by 12 is 1/2 or 0.5. And this would be 5.25 feet. 3 inches, 3 divided by 12 is 1/4 or 0.25. And I would multiply that out. On the other side over here, I could have converted them into inches. So this would have been 48, 54 inches. 5 times 12 is 60, 63 inches. Either way is fine. It's just I have to be very careful. If I multiply 4.5 times 5.25, I get 23.625. Or 23 5/8, that is square feet. Over here, 54 times 63, 3,402 square inches. If I wanted to convert between the two, do I just divide by 12? Really? 3,402 divided by 12 is 283. That's not 23, is it? If I divided by 12 a second time, it would get there. We probably won't get there today. In tomorrow's class, we will talk about how do we convert square units, when it's feet squared and inches squared, and why it is different. If you're multiplying feet times feet, it's going to be feet squared. To get rid of it, you'd have to square root it, but you'd have to square root the number too. And now you're back to something that isn't an area anymore. So my metric units, let's say I had 3.2 centimeters times 36 millimeters, and I want my answer in centimeters squared. So the 3.2 centimeters isn't going to change. The 36 millimeters is going to become how many centimeters? 3.6. So 3.2 times 3.6 is? What's that? 11.52, very good. 11.52 centimeters squared. About 10. I like that precision there. That's impressive.
Chris likes it too. He says it's pretty good at that.
Or I could have 17.28 centimeters divided by 120 millimeters. And let's see, I want my answer in, I guess it doesn't matter, does it? From dividing two measurements, it doesn't matter. The units are going to cancel out. So it doesn't matter which one I change it into. I'm going to change this one into millimeters. How many millimeters will that be? Perfect, 172.8. Divided by 120 millimeters is going to give me 1.44. What do you think? Better than a sharp stick in the eye? Close enough?
No kidding.
In the big book, page 244, it's exercise 9-2, do the odds. And on page 245, exercise 9-4, I want you to do all 1 through 5.